talks and discussions, we have journeyed back to the Middle Ages, medieval times, to place ourselves in a castle. The reason I have done that so much is because a castle is a parallel, a representative of how a spiritual life can actually be. Safe, secure, self-contained. Castles in the old days, they used to have their own farms right inside the big walls, have their lumber supply, water, food, whatever they want. So we're going to do that again now with an extremely important application to you. So here we are now. We're back in the castle, inside it, the big walls, the walls up there and the towers around it. And outside the castle is the wasteland, the wilderness. Animals prowling in the jungles, bandits, assassins, all sorts of evils outside the castle, but we're in there, protected by the walls, by the location, spiritual location, and the wisdom that is inherent in being inside the castle itself. All right. Now, of all the maybe 200 or 300 people inhabiting this particular castle we're talking about, there is a traitor. There is a man in there who does not love the king, who does not love castle life with it. You know why he doesn't love castle life? Because it's safe, because it's content, because it's uncomplicated. His nature does not match that of the interior life of the castle. Therefore, he's at enmity with it. He wants to destroy it because it is unlike himself. All lost people must make an effort to destroy the truth, which they'll always fail to do, of course. Bang against the wall, crash down, unconscious, hurt, and then love the pain so much that they get up and rush for the wall again and fall down again. This is their life. This is their life until God withdraws even mechanical life from their physical body. And that's the end of them. If you want to know what happens after death, I will tell you. You become what you were at the moment of death. You want to know what's going to happen to you when the physical body goes? I've just told you. Oh, you don't think about that too often, do you? It's too scary. Because when we talk about death, you think that you have life and you don't want to lose that life, which you call life, which is death. If you had real life, possessed it, understood it, both the words life and death would be words. Instead of realities, quote mark, which they now are to you because you have identified with your present way of living and called that life which is not. Back to the castle. Our traitor, our Judas, our quisling inside there, had contact with the bandits and thieves and tyrants outside the castle walls, betraying the castle, trying to betray the castle to the enemies outside. And indeed, he did take information outside and gave it to the captain of the gang of thugs out there. And they attacked the castle, tried to sneak in by burrowing under. Nothing worked. I just said 2 or 3 words that it should be very important to you. It should be very valuable. Nothing worked. Evil can only work with you when you are the same as evil. I know, take that as an intellectual concept now, and it will grow into where the Spirit will tell you that instead of your mind, which is that nothing can touch you if you remain inside the castle with a right spirit. You've read it many times before in spiritual literature. My enemies surround me, and yet I am untouched. Now, know that as an experience rather than as a description. Well, anyway, he betrayed the castle endlessly over a period of years. And I'm going to end this story in a different way than usual. In all other cases, as you know, because you've heard these talks and illustrations, finally the traitor saw what he was doing wrong, and the king talked to him perhaps, and he gave up his betrayal of the castle and became a part of it. I'm going to change that this time. The traitor never repented. He never changed his ways. He was fixed in his wish to attack what he could not become a part of because he didn't want to become a part of it. So he faded out, and he went away the way he was during his traitorous, Judas-like lifetime. Now, the reason I want to leave it that way, see, we usually make a success story. You know, he changed his ways and all that. And that's for you, if that's what you want. But I want to emphasize the fact that the world doesn't want it, and there are traitors inside of you, there are quislings inside of you who doesn't want part of the castle life. And ladies and gentlemen, I have given you right now a point that you must, as individuals, think about, write down about, ponder about, work on, which is this. The traitor, secretly pretending to be friends of the king and loving the people who were part of the inner kingdom, that traitor believed in his own mind and heart that he was doing what was good for himself. He couldn't see, he couldn't know, he couldn't understand that his betrayal of what was good, his attempt at betrayal, he never succeeded. His betrayal was unconscious, unseen by him, and he couldn't see that his way of life, his destruction, his hardness, his viciousness, his hatred of the king, that was bad for him. The world, with its armaments, with its phony religions, with its crudeness, the world with its madness is convinced, quote marks around convinced, is convinced, every individual knows, quote marks, that he is doing what is best and right and successful for himself. Nobody sees that self-destruction is one thing: self-destruction. Now, there are a lot of you in this room who don't see this. And furthermore, you're not interested in seeing it. And that is your folly. You come here, you don't hear half of the... You come into this room and you don't even hear half of the talk because you're gone somewhere. How many have been gone already? Raise your hand. You've been gone, haven't you? Some of you never even came in here in the first place, except physically. I'm going to go over it again. One of the greatest obstacles that an individual must overcome is his belief that his chosen way of life is what is good and necessary for him. And when he says it's necessary, he then becomes the sworn foe of everything that's trying to take it away from him. Now, you've heard of Attila the Hun. The secret code name of our spy in here is Attila the Un. Attila the Un was unconscious. He was unhappy. And he was unintelligent. Have I described anyone in this room? I'll tell you the most difficult one of the three to detect, the Attila the Uns in you, unconscious. The mind is a liar. The mind is a deceiver. The mind is a Judas. And this Judas part of your mind will say to you, that man said, I am unconscious. What do you mean I'm unconscious? He never even studied anything about what it means to be conscious, unconscious, to see, to not see. And already in his stupidity, which is you, he makes a judgment. A stupid human being doesn't know he's stupid. The mind, his mind, has called him okay. His mind has told him he's doing the safe thing. Can you imagine the insanity of our spy inside the castle, who does all these evil things against the kingdom and against the king? Can you imagine his stupidity in thinking that he is doing the right thing, that it is good to destroy what is inside? All self-destruction, therefore, must have its basis in not knowing what you are doing. And the way the devil tricks the masses of people is to tell them that you know what you're doing, to start a war either internationally or with your wife. Take action, give yourself a thrill, and then you can refer that thrill back and say, I feel something, therefore it must be right. I tell you that it is wrong. Now, look a little closer into the state of the mind of the traitor, which, by the way, are parts in human beings. Do you think there might be a traitor inside you? Yes, there is. Otherwise, your faces wouldn't be the way they are. Otherwise, while I'm talking, I wouldn't see you. I'm talking about you in this audience now. I wouldn't see you. You don't even know I'm watching. I see 1,000. You don't know I see you looking down. I know you're gone. I know when you go over like that, you look down like that, and maybe a few 30 seconds later you finally come back to me. I know that you have an awful, evil traitor inside of you that wants to keep its delusions of being right, and everything inside the castle is wrong. You are stupid. You are self-destructive. You know not what you're doing against yourself. And you don't belong here if that's where you... I would ask those of you who have strong traitors inside of you not to even come into this room. I don't like you in this class. You shouldn't be in this class. I'll tell you where you should be, and I'm saying this for a conscious purpose, by the way. I know what I'm doing. I'll tell you what you should do. You should be outside the castle with people and thoughts and emotions and reactions the kind that you have. You're in the wrong place by being in here if you have not one traitor, but maybe 50 traitors who secretly despise what you're hearing in this room. You belong out where you will be, quote mark, happy with your own kind. Now you see, even when I, quote again, force you to make a decision, what good does it do? You're not listening. You're not hearing me. I say you must make a choice, and you're thinking about lunch. Or you're just in a dull, dazed state. I feel the dullness of many of you, even while I'm talking here now. Or you're not receptive, you're not hearing. There's a blank look on your face and a blank mind, and you wonder why you came here in the first place. Mark well the next statement. Each of you here, and listening to this cassette talk, each of you are in love with the way you now are. For right or wrong, for destruction or construction, you, whether you understand what I'm talking about or not, you love what you are right now. Your level, your state. And the evidence of that is right in front of you. You love what you are because you remain what you are. Now, here's my question to you. Could you have the daring? Could you have the spiritual rightness to go home and take a piece of paper and write down what I am, I really love, and here's what it is? And then you write down on that paper things that you don't want to write down. All your life you've been avoiding it. You know, petty, idle thoughts. Worry you're going to lose someone. Oh, here's a good one. But don't miss this one. Write it down. Vague hauntings. That covers a lot of territory, doesn't it? Vague hauntings, you know, and it usually happens when you're alone or not watching television, where you have all these things that take your mind off yourself. But sometime when you're in your car and there's not driving a long ways and there's not much to think about, and all of a sudden you get this vague haunting. And by the way, you know what one thing that the vague haunting is all about? It's which you repress. Let's say you're on this long trip and you're driving somewhere. One of the vague hauntings consists of a voice that's trying to get up and to ask you, what on earth are you doing taking this trip? Where are you going? What do you expect to find when you come to the end of the drive? What do you want? Vague haunting should also be a very specific course of investigation for you, so that you can understand that when I talk about the Judas and the Quisling and the traitor inside the castle, I'm talking about something inside of you. That's what the parallel is all about. Remember now, he's unseen by himself, which is the meaning of unconsciousness. He doesn't see it. Now listen to me. I wish we had time to say each of your names. I say your name and your name and your name. And back there. You, sir, you, miss, you are not conscious of your false belief in thinking that the way you are now is what is good and best and safe for you. You don't see that very clever traitor inside of you that is trying to sell you out to the enemy, because it is a part of the enemy forces. Therefore, you don't see that you could wake up right in the middle of, the traitor, he always passes himself off as, inconspicuous usually. Maybe, let's say, a worker around the grounds. He brings water into the castle or whatever, ordinary dress and all that. The traitor himself, does not seeing himself as a traitor, has to become aware of it, and this is your task. Right by doing some ordinary thing, you suddenly become conscious of the haunting, of the pain, of the fear. Spies are always afraid. You afraid? It's because you're a spy. And you're carrying the water into the castle under disguise, and you wave to the other cat, and they all think you're a nice man and all that. All of a sudden, you know better. You have seen through yourself, and you set the water pail down right in the middle of the courtyard there. You're so stunned by the revelation, and you look around, and what you see is the safety of the walls. You see the provision for your needs, the wood and the food, the water. You see everything that is good and right. People are not fighting inside there. They have no need to fight. They've got something. They've got something higher than fighting. So they don't fight. And all of a sudden, the traitor inside of you, which you can detect, what on earth am I doing trying to destroy this? See, without this shock, you're not going to wake up. You've got to see what you're actually doing. You don't know you're doing it. Which is why the word consciousness, awareness, seeing, understanding, insight are so vital to your awakening. Awakening is another one. Right in the, what am I doing? At the same time that revelation of light comes to you, it automatically, naturally includes another revelation. And let's illustrate it. The man who suddenly looked around and he saw the goodness and the peace and the quietness, the niceness of being inside the castle. At the same time, he saw the goodness of being there and seeing that he was trying to wreck that. At the same time, if you have this experience, you'll understand what I'm talking about. At the same time, he gets the bucket off the side so it's not left out in the middle, puts it back somewhere, and he climbs the steps up to the castle walls. You know how there's always a parapet, I guess they call it, a platform where the soldiers and people can stand and look out over the wall and see 360 degrees around. He gets up and he goes up to the platform, and he slowly walks a complete circle around the castle, slowly looking out. And he looks out. Remember now, this is called seeing the opposites. This is called consciousness of the opposites of the intellect. He saw the goodness of the castle. Now he walks around and he sees thugs and bandits fighting among themselves out there. And these are the people that he was selling secrets to. And it occurs to him, those people are evil, and this is what I wanted for me. That means, oh, what a blow. He hangs onto that wall before he falls off. It's so shocking. That means that I can't believe it. He doesn't want to believe it. Stick with it. Stick with the wall. Stay up there. Walk around it every day. What I am looking at is me. Oh, can you see how an insight floods over that? Now I know why I was miserable. I was a divided human being. I was pretending to be one thing, but actually being another. No wonder I'm sick. No wonder I have nightmares and headaches. No wonder I'm bitter and hard and vicious. No wonder I'm a greedy grabber. I'm trying to grab something to make me feel secure. You'll never get it. You'll never get it. See how insight, therefore, of evil and goodness both proceed within the same insight. This means that instead of the intellect operating to form a false self, in this case a spy, instead of the intellect operating because you have paid attention to your lessons and you've grown spiritually a little bit, you are seeing life from the castle wall up there, which means you can see both good and evil, which means when you see both good and evil, you're no longer a part of the evil. You can't be. But the main point, before you lived from your intellect, which is a betrayer, which is a Judas. Now you're living from something higher, which is called seeing. Now you see what an utter wretch you have been. No human being ever inherits life everlasting, which does exist because God exists. No human being ever inherits eternal life without going through the process I've just described to you. Now, put it the other way. Any human being who wants everlasting life, even though if you don't understand that phrase, which you don't, because you're thinking about it, anyone who wants it can have it by going through the process, and this is what we talk about 4 times and more a week in this room. Now, I said a little bit ago, you have to walk around the castle walls getting one shock after another. Oh, you know one experience you'll find? I think you've already gone through this. I know some of you have mentioned it. One night, you're walking around and seeing all that sickness and evil out there, and you hear voices in the dark. And you know what they're saying? You understand there's several of those bandits at the time. You know what they're doing? They're calling you a sucker. Yeah. What a stupid man. He sells for 30 pieces of silver. He betrays the castle. And then you hear them planning to betray you. You've heard of that in gangster stories, haven't you? A weak, foolish man joins the gang and he becomes part of it, and pretty soon for some reason or other they want to make him a victim, and they do. I tell you, now, and all of you people, you new people, everyone, I want you to become conscious of how much danger you are in by associating with your present nature. What you call those friendly ways, those friendly thoughts, are Judas thoughts, and they are going to betray you to the enemy. They're going to betray you to the dark forces. It's just a matter of time. And betrayal means this. It means without living with God, with truth, that your life goes on a descending pattern level. You go down. You go down because you have been betrayed. You go downhill. That is more miserable as you grow older because you have betrayed yourself by not saying, you know, what I just heard was different. What I just heard was new. I'm not sure I like it, but I know it's different. And I think I'll look into it. I think I'll come to every single class. I'm not going to go at anything except where it's obvious the boss makes me work or something like that. I'm going to come to every single class with one idea in mind, to find out what is true. That's your part. The part of this class is to reveal to you what is true, which you will finally see if you want it. Oh, I'll tell you, it's no fun. It's no fun being a traitor. It's no fun sneaking out and consorting with people who are like you are. The king of the castle says, all can change. The king of the castle says, for heaven's sake, man or woman, when you're walking across the courtyard with a... No, pail of water. Think about where you are. Look around and see the difference between your idealistic images of what you are and where you are with what's actually happening. And pray for the day that it'll come very soon where you start to see how you have been betrayed by your own mad mind. Out in the darkness, they're whispering for your destruction. I'm telling you, I'm not getting mystical. I'm not getting anything but pure fact. And there's something in all of you right here in this room that knows it's a fact. Please, please have the intelligence to stop right where you are, walking across the courtyard of life, planning your next sexual conquest, planning your next financial gain, planning your next little evening with a dinner and TV. Poor pathetic people, that's all you have to look forward to. Stop right where you are and look and see where you are, so that you see both the goodness inside that you have been trying to betray and the darkness outside, which is not only trying to betray you, but succeeding. Up on the wall, you see all, and from there, you're really safe. Think of yourself, for now, as an individual who is constantly under a barrage of orders. If you will do that and follow along with me, you will see how true it is. That you, during your 24 hours of the day, are a receptacle for orders from every direction. From outside there and from inside here. Coming at you, and you don't know what to do with them. You don't know how to sift them. You're not quite sure which ones are right for you. Some come in and you juggle them a little bit, the orders, wondering whether to take it, obey it, or disobey it and run away. Look at them for a little bit. Don't you know that when you cry that you have obeyed an order? The order of your prevailing emotions, which are all wrong, by the way. Why should you cry about anything? And when you cry, isn't it obvious that there's only one person in the whole world that you're crying over? So you obey the orders of your wild feelings to sob. Or you obey the feelings to laugh, to be cheery at a certain time. You obey the orders to obey orders of your boss down at the office. You obey the orders of your own physical self to walk or to ride or whatever. All the time, try to see it, because we're going on to something very important from this opening statement. See that orders, call them that for now, are coming to you, and they come so fast and furious, you're confused by them. What a dreadful way to exist. Because very often, and remember your past on this, consciously remember it, very often you take orders that you think are good and then find out the next day they were bad. See how suggestible you are. That's an order from someone else. Someone suggests something. Maybe they even tell a joke and they laugh a little bit and you mechanically imitate them and laugh a little bit too. You're not living from yourself, you're living from exterior commands. And also your interior ones, and oh, what a mass of contradictions are there. Your life is the terror and the unpleasantness that it is because you live from low-level orders because you think you have to obey them. You obey low-level people. You have you not?
Yes.
Have you not obeyed your own impulses to be irritable? Well, now, what is that but following an order? Something in you said, strike back, take revenge, get angry, or the opposite of that, suppress the rage, push it down, force the smile, and you follow that order. You had better learn right here and now that unless you understand the vastness of what I'm talking about and go to work on it immediately to free yourself from it, you will have to remain a slave who will jump painfully at the crack of any whip. Now, you should know by now that orders coming from the outside have no real authority over you to make you jump, to make you feel elated, to make you feel depressed. You should understand that they have no real authority over you at all, except as you have consented to them. Now, as simple as that is, you still don't grasp it on the spiritual level. You have it intellectually, maybe. You can even quote it very well. But as long as you are the victim, a victim is always unconscious, always the slave, therefore always afraid and always resentful. Something has to be done, therefore, by you, in which you can be in a state of extreme awakenedness, so that the order, when it comes, is put under the magnifying glass of your own awareness, and you see clearly whether it is one that is good for who you really are, or whether it is harmful and therefore falsely beneficial to your life if it's something that's in favor of your old nature. Now, you haven't developed this ability to watch an impression, an order, a command, a thought, an idea, a word. You haven't developed the capacity to do that. Why not start right now? And I'll give you a clue on how to do that. Whenever you are taken over by an order, let's just say that someone says something to you that hurts your feelings or you didn't think was quite right for them to say. At the moment they say it, can't you see your slavery? Instant bang, you're gone. No, you can't. There is no way you can see it because a machine can't see itself. A motorcycle never sees itself going down the highway. It never sees itself slipping sideways and falling into the ditch. A motorcycle has no awareness of itself as a motorcycle. Now, please, I'm talking about mechanical human beings, so the illustration is good. Any more than a motorcycle can see itself, you can't see yourself. When are you going to start? I know how hard it is. I know it's a lot of hard work. That is no excuse. When this class, this talk is over, you're going to be talking to other people. I want you to work during the short break we have, or 10 or 12 minutes. And I want you to use that 10 or 12 minutes to do something deliberately voluntarily. Because you're going to be talking to each other. Don't fall asleep. Don't wander around in the days as you always do. When I say at the end of this talk, take a break, that's a signal for you to stay awake. Take a break, stay awake. Instead of being taken over by the first thought that comes to you, I'll go downstairs and get coffee. Or I'm a little thirsty, I'll get a drink. Whatever you want. You won't do that. Instead, when I say take a break, you will straighten up and you will look around and you will know where you are. You won't get up in a daze. You will see the people next to you. If you bump into them, you will feel the bump. You will not watch yourself walk around the room. This is what I'm talking about. You staying not just mentally awake. You're mentally awake anytime you want something. But that doesn't cause you to grow, to be free of yourself. This is a lesson in spiritual awareness, awakeness, where although nobody knows it but you because they can't see what you're doing, but you know the difference in the state that you're going to have when I call for the break and the state that you're always in previously. When I say, let's take a few minutes break, all of a sudden you're gone, aren't you? You don't know where you are. You forget yourself. You have to start remembering yourself at every moment. Now, I have given you so that you have no excuse now. None of you here have any excuse for failing in this lesson. You're to remember what I said. You're to remember exactly what's going on. See and remember what's going on when I call for the break. Now, I have given you a very specific exercise in you breaking the mechanical commands of your mechanical nature, which brings mechanical results and mechanical punishments. This will enable you to make proper distinguishing between the hundreds of orders that come to you from all sides, from within and from without, so that when one comes, you see it. You don't see it now. You're dreaming, you're dazing, you're wandering around. You're thinking of what you want. Your chatterbox mind is going 1,000 miles an hour. Which do you prefer? The pleasure of finding yourself or the dreariness of losing yourself a little bit more each day? Now, if you have any wisdom at all, you know that you can make a choice in favor of yourself. And when you do that, please listen to me, what I'm going to tell you. When you make a choice to watch the orders that come, when you make the decision to stay awake, regardless of the surrounding noise, your decision is what you can do. Your decision is your part. And when you make this right decision, fighting the sleep every minute, it's heavy, isn't it? Your eyelids want to go like that. Fighting the sleep at every minute. When you make the decision, the right decision, you will have what you've been looking for all your life and looking in the wrong places. And you know what that is? Help from truth. Something spiritual coming down. It's, you know, God is up there looking down, watching you, watching to see if and when you are going to make the right decision. And that decision is an invitation. Now, if you have never experienced this, therefore you can't follow what I'm talking about, I want you to do it. I want you to know for yourself what I've told you. I've given you words, given you examples, I've given you ideas. I want you to know from yourself exactly what happens when you fight the sleep in any way you can. And you say, I'm not going to be in a daze anymore. It costs too much. I'm always heavy-spirited over it. I'm going to stay awake. And so you fight for yourself. You will see that the decision to stay awake, if you do it over and over, all you have to do is decide. You don't have any strength. You don't even have any strength to keep the decision in place. All you can say is, I'm going to make the decision as best I can, and there had better be something higher than me that will back me up, and there is. I will tell you, you will have a spiritual experience unknown by billions of human beings. They don't know this. They're not here tonight. They're out at the bars, and they're out at the games, and they're out fighting in the family. You can do better. Let me give you an illustrative story. Here's a businessman who has to make a business call. And he drives his car out of the big city out to a medium-sized factory on the outskirts of town. And he drives in the parking lot, gets out, goes into the reception room, talks to the secretary there that he wants to see the president of the company with whom he had an appointment. And the secretary says, well, the president is busy just now. Would you go down the hall there? There's coffee and waiting room, magazines. Please wait, and when he's ready for you, I'll call you. Fine. Being a businessman, he expects that. It happens all the time. So he goes down the hall and sits down and absently looks at a magazine, not seeing it. Ever do that? Ever go through a whole magazine without seeing it? That's what he did. Only he went through 9 or 10 of them. And he looked at his watch and began to wonder what was going on. Half hour? Well, he's waited a half hour. 40 minutes? Well, he's even waited 40 minutes once or twice. An hour. See, he has to be tactful. He can't come in and demand what's going on here. He wants something from the president, right? But he goes back to the secretary's office eventually and says, excuse me, but I have waited an hour. Is something wrong? Or could I go see the president? And she's very apologetic, very pleasant about it outwardly. And she says, I'm sorry, but you came back just at the right time. Go to the other side of the plant, room 80, and she gave him directions going this way and that way. Go to room 80. The president is in there temporarily, and you can talk to him. He's relieved. Now his time is worth something. He's doing something definite. So he goes down the hall and follows the directions, goes left and right, goes to room 80, knocks, no answer. So he opens the door, goes inside. There's an office there, but empty, nobody there. So he says, well, the president stepped out for a minute. So he sits down and waits, picks up another magazine sitting there, idly goes through it. Oh, he's beginning to get irritated, right? How many of you ever got irritated, situation like that? How many of you get irritated after 3 minutes? 60 seconds? No president. So he waits there for a half hour, comes out, walks left and right all the way back half a mile or so to the original secretary's office and explains the situation. I waited there for the president and he didn't show up. She said, oh, I'm sorry. There was a misunderstanding. Would you please, sir, I'm sorry about this. Would you please go back to the waiting room, wait a little bit more, and I'll try to accommodate you to see the president. Well, he sighs a little bit and goes on back. By the way, have you noticed when you're in a situation like that, how the utterly apologetic, sorry manner takes the edge off of your fury? You know? Well, at least they care enough to explain. So you feel a little bit better. And she was very smiling and pleasant. Goes back to the waiting room again, waits, another hour. This is about all he can take, so he gets up and he wanders around a little bit, looking at his watch. And he sees a window in the hallway, one of the hallways, so just to pass time. He looks out the window, and he sees something that startles him. He sees something that explains everything. What he sees, across the yard there, is a warehouse. And it's apparently very valuable products of some kind in the warehouse. And there's a gang of thieves looting the warehouse. And all of a sudden, he sees the secretary come out and pass in front of him and get in a car and drive away. And she says 2 or 3 other men in suits that he'd passed by in the hallway come out and get in the car and drive away. And he saw the looters with the loot in the loot truck drive away real fast. All of a sudden he understood what had been going on. Gang of thieves, professional thieves, had come in. They were looting the plant. And when they came in, there was the secretary just waiting for someone to come in. Stalled him, told him to wait. Oh, gave him orders. Now see, look at his situation. He didn't know he was under false orders, did he? Because they were criminals, they were able to deceive him. They could put themselves into his place. They know what to do to kid him, to make him wait so he wouldn't discover what they are doing. Get the point? Or if you don't, let's go into it a little bit. Society is a gang of criminals, all of them. I am telling you, you live in a world, you are surrounded by criminals. What are criminals? Criminals are men and women who have not found God. What else? How can you be good and be apart from reality? Do you make a personal connection with that? How many of you think you're pretty bad? Don't you know why you're bad? You know what badness means? You're not living from yourself. You're not living rightly. You're not living truly. You're living frantically, desperately, all wrapped up in yourself and being taken. Someone, sir and madam, someone is looting your life and you don't know it. Why don't you find out? Why don't you look out the window? Why don't you get, a little bit suspicious that something strange is going on? And I'll tell you what that means. That means something strange going on means that your frantic nature remains a frantic nature in spite of everything you do to calm it down. Your worries continue. Your anxieties still clutch you. In spite of everything you do, aren't you suspicious that something, you don't know quite who, something is playing a trick on you. Someone is diverting your attention so they can steal your goods, steal your life. It's happening. If you are living apart from who you really are, you are caught right in the whole mess of the world and don't see it. You know what looking out the window means? Looking out the window, when he looked out, he saw the criminals looting over there. It is possible for you to be in a spiritual state where you can look out the window and see the pack of criminals that have taken over your life. I'm talking about what is internal in you. How many of you are unpleasant? You know what I mean. You're sarcastic, you're cruel to people. You're not very nice to be around. Do you know if you're in that state that you're being looted, your true look, your true life is being taken away from you. You'd better wake up. You'd better find out what's going on. You'd better look out that window. See, look at our businessman again. While he was being deceived and tricked and being sent here and there just to distract him. Listen to this. He had all kinds of problems he didn't know he had, right? Now, aren't you suspicious that you may have a lot of difficulties that you don't see? Was he suffering from his ignorance? Of course he was. He didn't see through it. He wasn't looking out the window. He was looking at magazines and not seeing them, all wrapped up in himself. When you're all wrapped up in yourself, how do you expect to see yourself when you're enjoying it? Enjoying the disturbances going on inside of you, which you do. If you keep worries, you enjoy them. False enjoyment, of course, which means enjoyment of something that is destructive. How about seeing the gang of looters, which is anything that is negative? Now, how much simpler could that be? Anything that is negative. Even very simple things like being forgetful. You know, you have something important, you forget it. You people do this all the time. How many of you here are incapable of following simple orders? I'm afraid to ask for your hands. You are given simple instructions to do something, and you're so rattle-brained you can't do it. Don't you know that that is part of the theft? When are you going to be suspicious that you in your ignorance are consenting to being tricked? You know, put yourself in the businessman's place. That's no fun. He was there 2 or 3 hours, dumbly hanging around, not suspecting anything. It is no fun to be fooled. Why do you take it as being a necessary occupation? It is not. I want to tell you, it is, I will tell you that it is extremely hard for you to see the problem you are to yourself. How can you see it when you are it? When you're so close to yourself? And your whole life is spent running around the halls in that factory, taking a sip of coffee over there, picking up a magazine and tossing it aside, running anger thoughts through your mind, wondering how you ever got involved in this kind of a life when you could have been doing something else. Time to look out the window. I gave you an exercise on that, and I expect you to remember it. I expect you to start doing more for yourself, far more for yourself than you have up until now. And I want you to back up the expectation I have of you as the teacher of this class. I want you to go one further. I want you to expect it of yourself. Don't settle! Will you stop settling? What a horrible existence. Wandering from one end of the factory to the next, not knowing what is going on. I tell you, you don't have to do it, and you come back here month after month and continue to do it. What a foolish human being you must be to love wandering back and forth hatefully, hating the condition you found yourself in, waiting for something good to happen. He wanted to sell something to the president. He was waiting for something good to happen instead of seeing what was happening to him at the time. Right now, what is happening to you? That nature that you have that takes foolish, dangerous orders and obeys them. That nature that you have can be seen at this very second I am talking to you. It can be seen, and it must. And you must do it. Right? Look, you're looking at me physically. That's fine. Will you please direct your spiritual eyes inwardly? Right now. So you can see what you are. So that you can see that you have no power of attention at all. Anything can take your mind away. Someone makes a movement. Someone mutters something maybe, and you're gone. To save your own life, you must give attention to your own life. That businessman didn't. He was very foolish. He gave attention to his thoughts that he was going to make a big sale, to his resentment of having been caught in the condition. He wasn't thinking about what was going on inside of him. He was just living mechanically. Taking orders from the past, huh? Don't you know that all your orders are orders from the past? If you were living right now in spiritual wholeness, at this very moment, there'd be no way at all a deceptive order could penetrate you and get you to follow it. See, what you have to be doing? You have to be looking out the window all the time so that you catch yourself in careless thoughts and an inability to stop chattering up here. And slyly looking around. You slyly look around at a pretty girl. And you don't know that you're slyly thinking about that pretty girl. You have to be looking out the window every minute in order to see, guess what's being looted? Guess who is being looted? Now, I've given you a method by which you can turn everything around, by which you can rise above the many frantic fears that you have. You know this stiff, self-enclosed little nature you have. No freedom in it, no spontaneity, no naturalness. Oh, come on. There's something different. There's something better. I am describing it to you. Please, your naturalness has to be your naturalness. Mine can't be yours. You were put here on earth as an individual who had to develop. Now, you haven't followed that right order, have you, very much? You see, the one single order from that high place coming down to find yourself, to put spiritual ideas first, to wake up. This one single order from heaven can cancel out and dissolve 10 million orders from hell, which you have obeyed up until now. You don't have to obey them anymore. I am telling you, you don't have to obey anything anymore that hurts you, that scares you, that makes you think that you've been a failure. Look, when you think you're a failure, that's a success for your egotism, right? So you can be free of all these horrible commands that you don't understand, but which you think you have to obey, because you're afraid if you don't that something bad will happen to you. Something bad is happening to you all along anyway, which is why it is your duty as a spiritual student to start to defy false orders coming from low places and start listening to the higher one. It will direct you. Maybe you haven't noticed it, so start now. Start noticing that there is a great desire in you to be overwhelmed. Now go slow so you can see. There is a part of you that you don't glimpse too often that has a wish to overwhelm your life. You wish to be overwhelmed. Now, this idea of being overwhelmed has both a negative and a positive phase to it. Now, follow me as I explain the negative part. What does alcohol do but overwhelm a person's mind and his body? What does cheering excitement at the sports stadium do but overwhelm a person? What does a sorrowful state of tears and sadness do but overwhelm, take over, dominate the human mind and emotions? So there is something wrong inside human beings that invites anything of any nature, no matter how savage, how sick, how weird, that invites for a long, long stay something, anything that will take them over and guide their day, their life. The invitation to a negative force to take you over and do what it wants, the invitation to the negative force is always accepted. Is accepted because that is the way of life of you in your present low level of insight, and the way of life of human beings as a whole. So the invitation to be taken over, to be taken, what a tragedy, to be taken care of, you think. The invitation goes out and it is answered, and you are indeed overwhelmed and taken over. Once having done that, you now become the slave, your life, your spirit becomes the slave of what you invited. And maybe we better look just a little bit more at the invitation and what it brings into your life. I'm talking about you. What I am talking about now is the story of your life. Now, if you want to lie about it and deny it, it's still the story of your life. You know all those emotionalized memories that turn through your life today? They took you over, didn't they? All right, try to get rid of them. Say, I don't want to think about that sad, tragic thought anymore. Try to do it. You'll never succeed the way you are now. Your level cannot do anything but express and get the results of its own level. Can you see the necessity, therefore, of examining this idea of being taken over, of being oppressed by your own mind, by memories, by people that you invite? What people play a part in your physical life, your social life, your mental life, sexual life? What people play a part in your life because you, in your foolishness and weakness and unawareness, have invited them to come in and overwhelm you in any way they want, including a fierce enemy. Who do you love to hate? Where are you dwelling in ideas of the past in which you were so taken over that you feel a strange satisfaction, which at the same time as you get the satisfaction of doing something with yourself, you're also having a feeling of a human being behind bars. And of course you're behind bars. You're behind bars of your own compulsive emotions. Your own wish to stand down on the beachfront and let that huge wave smash over you, take you where it wants, so that you can blank out, so that you can feel that you're doing something with your life and yet not having any responsibility for it. You think of doing that physically. I'm sure you've done that in the past. Transfer it to the psychological realm, and you'll see that you walk down to the seashore every few minutes to try to find something that will take you over, that will overwhelm you, that will give you something to do, that will carry you away. And you don't care where it takes you. Isn't that horrible? Well, let's look at that a little bit. Isn't it dreadful that you have no real concern, care for your life, that you'll sacrifice it for the quick thrill of feeling taken over and blanking out for a little bit and not caring where you go as a result of putting yourself under that wave? Where you're going to go is to dark places, dark caves along the seashore, and there's sharks out there. You're not in control of your life at all. You're not walking around during your day awake, knowing what's going on both inside you and outside you. You are gone. You are lost. You've flooded away. I have described your day. And if you don't come back here, if you don't listen to these truths, it will continue that way. Now, say that. That was a positive statement, but I'll say it in another way that is also positive. If you do, all of you here, come here, and those of you listening to the tape too, if you do come here, which is a place of light, a place of purity, which no evil can really enter, no evil can enter this hall, none at all. If you do come back here and listen to what's being said and respond with the right response, you know, that's right. He's talking about me. I don't have control of my life. I fake it a lot, pretend a lot, but I really don't have any control. And I have a lot of pretense and a lot of fakery, in which I use exterior things to convince myself that I have control. You have a nice home. What's that got to do with your inner control? You have a lot of money. What's that got to do with it? You have a lot of friends. What's that got to do with it? You and your friends are all lonely together. It is important, therefore, for all of you right now, while I'm talking to you, to go to work on yourself so that you can say repeatedly, as often as possible, and with right emotion, right spiritual emotion, say, yes, that is a perfect description of what I do, not every day, but every minute. I find something, invites that will overwhelm me so I won't have to think about the condition that I'm in. If I can just be taken away by the drink, or by the exciting news, by the flattery, if I can just be taken over, then I won't have to think. Then I can excuse myself from responsibility because I can block out my responsibility. But never, never will you ever be able to escape the natural sense of responsibility that God himself and nature itself put into you, the responsibility to go from where you are now to a higher place, the responsibility to grow mentally and spiritually. You'll never be able to block it out. Never, never, never. If you do, your pain will increase, your sorrow will. You won't know what to do with yourself except go down to the seashore every second and let something take you over and overwhelm you and block you out. Now, if you will take the responsibility for your growth, you might as well start right now. And to do that, I want to tell you something that you don't want to be told. I want to tell you that in spite of all your experiences, all the years that you have lived, all the books that you've read, all the advice you've given to yourself and to other people, all the traveling you've done, all the schools you've attended, in spite of everything, you know nothing about life. All you know is about exterior life. That has been your false god. What has it been? Making money, making an impression on someone, getting what you want from that man, from that woman, from that social organization. You don't understand that you don't understand anything. Now you say, well, I come here, do I not? Do I not come here to learn? How much have you learned? How much have you actually inwardly changed since you started coming here? Do you have just a little bit less anger? Do you have just a little bit less anxiety over yourself? Are you beginning just a little bit to value something other than what this sick society gives you? Are you actually changing, or are you not? If you are not changing, if you're not going uphill, that means that you haven't started at the only place any human being can start, which is to know that he knows nothing. Well, let me rephrase everything in another way, and perhaps this will put some comprehension in you. How much time do you spend in prideful, vanity, conceited scenes in your mind? How much time do you spend there all day long? The more time you spend there, the less time you have for foreseeing that you're spending your time there. You know, it's one thing to have self-worshiping scenes in your mind. It's another thing to know that they're there and begin to cut them off. That's a very interesting experience. Let me go into it a little bit. How many of you do indeed run dream scenes, mental movies through your mind all the time? They give you a certain pleasure, don't they? A certain false pleasure. Now, the next time you do that, I want you to notice something. I want you to notice the next time you men, you have this sex scene, you women, you have this scene of a bigger home or whatever. I want you to notice the exclusiveness of the scene. And let me explain that. I want you to notice that there is nothing in this whole world but that. Well, when you go into a movie house down on the main street of town, when you walk into a physical movie house and sit down in your chair there and watch the movie, and you're watching the cowboys race across the prairie, when you're looking at that, what else is there but that? You're looking at the film, aren't you? You're looking at a fiction, something made up, something that's artificial. There's no real cowboys and horses up there. There's just pictures of them. But you're taken over by them, engrossed by them. And you don't know you're seated in that chair, do you? You don't even know you're munching popcorn, do you? You look down and it's gone. So there is exclusiveness, when you're in a similar mental movie. And that is all there is. Now, if you were to look with enough intensity at the movie, and of course you're the hero, right? You're the handsome cowboy. How many of you are the handsome cowboy? You ladies are the beautiful heroines, right? Let's see the hands of the beautiful heroines. There they go. When you do that in a physical theater, and suppose there's a big storm outside that's going to tornado, that's going to lift the theater up and carry it into Kansas. When you're in there and engrossed in it, you're not listening to the storm. You don't want to. You're having too much fun, right? Being the hero. So anything outside of that can become a danger to you simply because you're so overwhelmed, so taken over. You're so where your imagination wants to be, your false pictures of yourself want to be. So outside dangers cannot penetrate. Now, do you know that you're in danger and don't know it? I'm trying to point out to you that you're in all kind of dangers that you don't see. Do you have troubles all day long? Aren't those troubles the same as dangers to you? Aren't they a danger to your spirit? That proves that when you're in these exclusionary mental movies, that's all you know. That's all that is going on. And unfortunately, that is all you want. That's all the sick world out there wants. Where are they now? Where's everybody out there going and what they're doing? If they're not engaged in something physical they think is giving them a lot of fun, they lock themselves in their little house and go into mental movies of how it might have been. You will find, therefore, a great appeal to your false nature in living in self-centered imaginary scenes. Now, what are we going to do about it? We've got to do something about it. You have to do something, and you have to do something different. And what you have to do is groan with great pain and fear of loss and snap the mental movie. You have to go against the pleasure. Look, cowboy, you're about to win the beautiful girl. All the bandits have been chased away. You've polished up your little sheriff's badge. The girl is about to come over and look at you lovingly. At that moment, turn off the film. You won't want to do it. Do it. You won't want to give up your so-called love life. Give it up. Flip the switch right now. You will groan. You'll say no. You'll say, don't take this beautiful life away from me. You've never had a beautiful life. Have you ever been to a movie? You know, you went down the show one night because you had nothing better to do. Your phone didn't ring, nothing in the mail, no boyfriend, no girlfriend. So you went down to the movie to be overwhelmed for a little bit. And it was a double feature, fortunately for you, right? With a cartoon in between, huh? And so you watched the show, and the second movie came on now, what is it, about 10:30 or so. And now, you know, the movie's about to end, and you have to go home alone, back down the dark streets home, and do the thing you fear to do most of all, which is to live with yourself. You want the movie to go on. You want to stay overwhelmed. All right. Inwardly, mentally, you will do something different. You will get up and walk out in the middle of the most fascinating scene in the whole show. That means all of a sudden, while you're working around the house there, or driving your car, all of a sudden, you will know that you're gone, that you're in the movie house, and you will fight for yourself for the first time, perhaps. And you will say, no, I know I want to stay there, but I'm going. I'm getting up out of the movie house. I'm snapping it. Watch the enormous resistance to it. Ever notice it? It'll fight you all day long, all night long. It will say, no, don't turn me off. The more it yells, no, don't turn me off, the more you turn it off. Go against what you call yourself. It is not yourself you're going against, but simply that mechanical, imaginary scenes up there. Cut out all dreams. Oh, I know. The world lives in that, which is why it's a horror story. All that you have taken as pleasurable, as something that is nice to invite and take you over, all that, please listen to me, is a thief in the night. I know you want to stay there. You want to stay there because that's all you've ever known. I am telling you there is something else. But you have to find it for yourself. This lady, this gentleman has to find it for himself. All of you do. You have to do the hard work of breaking the entangling chains, the fondness for taking the movie up there on the wall. You have to shatter the movie, the delusion that you have called reality. Now here's the test. Everyone says that they want to live peacefully. They want to live free of the chained maniac inside. They say they want to be a happy human being. Let's find out if you are telling the truth about that or whether you are lying. It is one or the other. When you tell me that you don't want anguish anymore, that you don't want to be confused, that you don't want to be afraid of the future anymore, when you tell me that, you're doing one of two things. You're telling the truth or you are lying. Now, which is it?